host, Joshua.
And I'm your host, Ariel.
And we're the Midnight Guild. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Midnight Guild. We're so sorry that it's been so long since that we... listen at me, I can't even talk, honey.
You're doing good.
We're so sorry it's been so long since we've got an episode out to you, honey. I have been taken to the bed sick.
He has for like 2 weeks.
Yes, it has been awful, honey.
Has it really been that long? Because it feels like
it truly it has. Like I had the flu, honey, and I don't know what they put in the flu this year.
But damn,
child, it knocked me off my ice twice.
Honey, he was pretty sure he had the pneumonia.
Twice,
fever.
I swear I had the pneumonia.
The pneumonia fever.
The pneumonia. It's been rough. It's been rough.
Yeah, I've never seen. I mean, I know. I feel like we've known each other our whole lives, even though it's literally not been a year yet.
Childhood friends.
Do you know what I about said? I literally about said, I've never even seen you this sick before.
She's never seen me sick before.
That was hilarious. Oh, I've never even he's not been sick before, but here I've never seen you this sick before, honey.
It was rough. Like, the flu is rough this year. I'm just telling you what, honey, give me COVID any day.
It was on another level.
Any day of the week, honey, I will take me some COVID over this nonsense. Like, it knocked me down. But I am feeling much better today. I mean, I do look a little haggard. I apologize in advance for that.
I've looked haggard when I came back from being sick. I looked rough. And I think you looked 10 times better than I did because, honey, I didn't even try.
So I might be a little bit nasally today, too. I mean, not that you all would notice anyhow, but just saying. You know, it is in the realm of possibilities. But, honey,
that string is, I was just going to say, that string was being weird. It's like, not straight across like the other ones is.
Though. This is giving me the craft very much.
Thank y'all. Love that.
Light as a feather, stiff as a board. Light as a feather, stiff as a board. I bind you, Nancy.
And when they're on the beach, calling from the north or whatever.
Oh, Lord.
But we digress, honey.
We digress. So thankfully to little Ariel here who's hosted us today.
Y'all.
Welcome us into her home place, Eddie, because mine was an absolute disaster.
That's okay.
Eddie, I've been sick forever, and I was just like, we can't.
You're like, to hell with all this.
We can't, honey, we can't. But here we are, honey, for you, hashtag the Guilders, our faithful followers. So notice on the TikTok, we have the 2,000 followers. And thank you all. Over. Now, that might not have seemed, like a big deal to some, but it was to us.
To us, it is amazing.
Honey, she was so excited when she sent me the message. Now, I was taken to bed with the fevers, so I didn't get to, enjoy it as much, but I was still quite happy.
Of course. Happy. And now that you're feeling a lot better, it's crazy, ain't it?
It is. Honey, keep them coming. Keep them
coming, honey.
So today, on today's menu, honey, we're going to take you to Jonestown.
Yes.
Yes.
A place you never really want to go.
I was going to say, we're going to take you to Jonestown, honey, where, the Kool-Aid is strong.
Yeah. Oh, it's so sad.
It is a little sad. Ariel has did us the deep dive today.
Honey, because I've had the time.
So, honey, this has done set her little motions in every which direction.
It's ridiculous. I've been doing research on this for every bit of a week and a half.
Every which direction. Now, I know a little bit about Jonestown because I did watch the documentary, honey, but, I'm willing to learn a little more.
Oh, yeah, we're going to deep dive, honey. I'm really excited to talk about it because I've studied it for over a week and a half now. That's the longest I've done on any of our episodes. Like, our other episodes maybe take me 3 days to research, if that. And I've been going strong into this for over a week and a half now.
She's had the time, because I've been on my deathbed.
Yeah, and I've had, exactly. I've had the time, and I was like, I'm going to do it by myself. It's fine, honey. Don't worry about it. Honey, I was so lazy because I was being pulled everywhere by my family these past couple of weeks.
She's been busy.
I have. My sister got a new puppy. I wanted to help her, and because it was for her birthday, and I just wanted to, give her a little extra attention and everything.
So happy birthday, Victoria!
And I'll insert a picture here of her puppy that we got on her birthday.
What's the puppy's name?
Archie.
Oh no, that's cute, little Archie.
Oh my God, he is freaking precious.
That's precious.
He's Oh, he's a doll baby.
Honey, speaking of precious little puppies, I don't know if you can see Ariel's little brood here.
This is Toby, my little Pomeranian.
And I have little Minnie here, honey, who's resting quietly under the covers beside me, honey. You know, she's precious.
You know what is funny? Her name's Millie.
Did I call her?
Oh, no, but you know why you called her that? Is because when my little niece, when Haley Ann was little, she would call her Minnie instead of Millie. And so in this house, literally, when she's up here, I'm like, come here, Minnie. Come here, Minnie, 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 Minnie.
I thought that was her name.
So that's why, because I've probably called her Minnie the entire time you've been here. No, it's cute. I'm like, oh my God, he thinks your name's Minnie and it's all my fault.
So little Millie. Oops.
You can totally call her Minnie. We all do.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good to know.
And she answers to both. Minnie and Millie.
Well, that's good. That's good because I was like.
She also answers to Amelia because that was supposed to be her real name, but we call her Millie for short. Honey, when she's in trouble, I'm like, Amelia.
She named her after Amelia Earhart.
No, I just liked it.
But
Amelia Earhart,
we'll go with Amelia Earhart, honey.
And then this is just Prince Toby.
Well, Prince Tobes.
Honey, he's 13. He ain't got time to be looking at this camera. He's like, bitch, I'm trying to sleep. Dad just turned 13. He turned 13 on January 1st.
Oh.
My baby.
Hey, buddy.
I know you're sleeping. You know how dachshunds are? They like to be under the cover if you've ever had one.
Little Maleficent.
Millie.
Ain't she cute? She my new friend.
She literally is just hanging out with Josh under the cover.
She my new friend.
That's where she wants to be constantly. If she's not playing or eating, drinking, she's under that cover.
All right.
Oh my God, we both took a deep breath. We were like, okay, stop talking about the animals.
That's how we roll, honey. We're like, we love them.
Just a proud mama.
We love them, but here we go.
Yes, honey.
All right, so now away we go.
That was probably
to a place called Jonestown.
That you never want to go, honey. You never want to go.
So let's listen about the good Reverend.
All right, guys. Toby, honey, I'm so sorry, but I'm going to have to.
Oh.
Here, will you put your little head right there with Joshua? Yeah, go right there. He likes under the cover, too.
All right.
There we go.
Come on.
4 peas in a pod.
I know. Here we go.
Okay, Toby, honey, you really on the laptop right now? Is that what we're doing? Okay. Now, Jim Jones, or James, as he was born as, like his name when he was born, if I can talk.
Jimmy.
Actually, he did go as Jimmy, like, in his later years, which is hilarious, like, in high school. So, I'm going to call him Jim throughout this entire video, because I'm not going through 3 different names. I'll confuse my damn self, and I know I'll confuse y'all, too. So, he was known as James as a child, but he changed it, so we're just going with Jim. He was born on May 13th, 1931 in Crete, Indiana, to Lynette Putnam and James Thurman Jones. Jim's father, James, was a disabled World War II veteran. The reason he was disabled in World War II, he got into a fight, and it was in chemical warfare was used, so mustard gas.
Oh.
And it, murdered his lungs.
I could only imagine, honey.
So, he was constantly sick, he could not work. He just couldn't breathe. So, he was a disabled World War II vet, and his mother, Lynetta, that's her name, yeah, didn't work because she was either, she was caring for an infant, and then also she was caring for Jim's dad.
Mm-hmm.
James. Shit, I forgot his name that quick. After losing their home, when Jim was little, relatives purchased a shack for Jim and his family to live in the town of Lynn, Indiana. The shack that Jim would spend the majority of the first part of his life, I should say, in was literally a shack. It had no electricity. It had no indoor plumbing. It was just bare bones. In the town of Lynn, they would try to make ends meet, okay? But James was getting, his lungs were getting worse and worse and worse. And no matter what job he had, he would eventually end up losing it or have to quit it because he couldn't breathe. And he was going down, honey. He could not breathe. He would end up in the hospital because of his job.
After the past 2 weeks, I understand him completely, honey.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can sympathize.
I can sympathize.
And Lynetta actually refused to work. I'm not really sure why. I guess because in that day and age, maybe she just was like, I'm the woman, I shouldn't have to, or if she was just lazy, I don't really know. But for the better part of their lives, they would be depending on relatives for food, financial support. But that only went so far, and it wasn't much at all. Like, I mean, we're talking, like I said earlier, bare bones. Like, the majority of the time, the family would go hungry.
So, and I mean, if this was in the 30s and stuff too,
it was right in the midst of the Great Depression.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say. So, I mean, times were tough already.
Yeah. So, they lived next to, like, a big field, and, like, they also, like, there was forests nearby and stuff like that. So, the family would actually be forced to, like, forage for mushrooms, berries, etc. You know, but that's only when they're in season.
Yeah.
You know, imagine the wintertime. Imagine the wintertime, because, honey, nothing grows here in the winter.
Except for despair.
Literally. That seasonal depression be real, bitch.
It gets you at these mountains.
Yeah, because it's so beautiful here in the spring and summer.
It is beautiful.
And the fall.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. Everything's so vibrant and beautiful, whether it be spring, summer, fall.
And then come winter you just have to tuck inside.
Yeah, literally.
That's all you can do.
It's just fucking gray. It's just fucking gray outside.
All the time.
And it's miserable.
All the time. And then it gets cold. And, you know, if you live up in the mountains, well, listen, one good snow and well, you're just there.
Honey, you live there you never leave.
You're just there, honey.
You're there until fucking springtime.
Yeah, pretty much. Which now, honey, you know, I live in town, so I ain't about that life.
Honey, I live out here in the sticks.
She does.
Which is how I wouldn't change it.
She does. She
I'm
does. It's
girl.
not bad in the sticks, though. It's like the beginning of the sticks, I feel like.
It's only 10 minutes from the city.
Yeah, like it doesn't take me long at all to get here.
No, it's just 10 minutes. But it's like a world of a difference, though, ain't it?
Honey, it is. It's very curvy. Lots of curves that don't make no sense neither. But it's all right. When you get out of town, you don't ask for sense, honey. No, you don't drive to the county thinking it's going to make sense. You just there to look at the beauty.
The beauty. So, Lynetta.
Little Lynetta.
Yeah, Jim's mom. She was not a good mom. Like, she was not motherly. She didn't. Multiple Jones biographers actually stated that Lynetta had no natural maternal instincts whatsoever.
Lazy Lynetta, honey.
She frequently neglected Jim. Like, I mean, it was bad. Jim was on his own a lot of the time because, I mean, she just didn't give a damn.
She neglected him.
Yeah, very much so. And he would depend on basically the kindness of nearby neighbors, like women from the church and their families. They would put him in like hand-me-down clothes, and they would feed him.
They say it takes a village.
Literally.
In his case, he needed the village.
He did. Unfortunately, it did not help him at all in life. You would think that would make you like a good person, but no.
No.
But when Jim was old enough to attend school, the family relatives that were supporting them threatened to pull all financial support from the family if Lynetta did not get a job, because she didn't have an excuse anymore.
Yeah.
Like, James could fend for himself through a work day, but the majority of the time, honestly, he was in the hospital. And Jim was at school, so she had no excuse. So Lynetta, I mean, you know, unfortunately in her eyes, she was like, oh, well, I have to get one because I can't go without that money. So she gets a job. When she goes on that job, the neglect was real beforehand, but now that she's got a job, the neglect is on another level.
Because in her mind, she has a reason to neglect him.
Exactly. Now. So Jim was often left alone. Like, he did have aunts and uncles that lived nearby that would somewhat supervise him, but not really. He constantly was alone. When he was at home, he was alone. And he just had nothing but himself. So I can't imagine that as a child. With his mother still working and his father being constantly in and out of the hospital due to his illness, Jim was not only alone, but left to fend for himself for like food and shit like that. And that's when the ladies of the church and the town would take pity on him even more and feed him and clothe him and stuff like that. But it was only what they could spare, because like I said, you got to think this is around the Great Depression.
It's a rough time.
Yeah. Myrtle Kennedy, she was the wife of a pastor in Lynn. She grew extremely fond of Jim.
That's a good name, Myrtle.
I agree. And she actually gave him a Bible as a gift and encouraged Jim to study the Bible and to start going to church and stuff like with them and things like that. And honey, that act right there, the act of kindness, an act of pure kindness on somebody's part, I believe in a way triggered the madness that became Jim Jones. Like the Jim Jones we all know. Jim grows absolutely fascinated with religion after getting this Bible. And he starts to attend numerous church services each week. And it actually led Jim to be baptized in numerous churches throughout Lynn. And Jim was like, he also went to church retreats and stuff like that regularly. And he kept becoming more and more and more fascinated with religion. And he's like, at this time, he's still young. Okay. So he's still in that area. You know, what you see is what you idolize.
Yeah.
And what you like start pretending, like, we all remember having imaginations.
Mm-hmm.
And like what you saw, if it fascinated you, you would go home and pretend to be that.
Almost definitely. You know what I'm saying?
Like watching like The Little Mermaid. Of course, I would say The Little Mermaid. Like watching The Little Mermaid, honey. We had a big ass bathtub when I was little. I mean, it was like one of those big ass jacuzzi tubs. Honey, and I was little. Honey, I was in that. They didn't have mermaid tails for kids back then like they do now.
I used to baptize people.
Honey, oh my God, we all did that in the pool.
I did. I baptized them all the time, honey. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Oh my God,
Lord.
we did that in the pool. Because we had a pool.
Yeah.
We had a pool every time. It would be me, my sister, and my cousins. We'd line up pretending to who was the preacher.
Who was the preacher?
And then who was the people getting baptized. I mean, that was our shit. Oh, well, I'll leave it in. It's fine.
It's fine.
I believe Jesus has a sense of humor.
He has to, honey.
Lord, yeah.
He has to.
So, like I was saying, you imitate what you see.
Yeah.
Okay, this is sad. So, Jim would go home, and like I said, you imitate what you see. Jim believes he's alone because his mother is like super religious, the kind of religious person they say they are, but they never go to church and they're not super whatever. I guess we should say she was extremely superstitious, maybe. So anyway, he thinks he's alone. He's at home. He goes home. He puts the sheet on to pretend like it's, the pastor's robe and everything like that. And he would preach little sermons in his bedroom.
Oh, well, that sounds kind
And
of
he did this all the time, apparently, and never got caught. It was there, or his dad didn't give a damn. So it wasn't a big deal. But one night, Jim's mom comes home and hears a ruckus, and she goes into his room and catches him preaching to an invisible congregation. And she gets hysterical over it.
Oh.
And beats him with a leather belt. Yeah, and told him that he was never allowed to basically go into that church again, and that he couldn't attend church like groups or retreats or anything like that. So I'm going to say she was superstitious, not religious.
She took his one little lifeline he had. She took it away.
100%. But this didn't stop him. Literally, he never stopped going. As a matter of fact, he
rebelled.
Honey, it gets so bad.
Oh Lord.
So this is, like I said, he's still pretty young. Okay. So he starts holding mock funerals for roadkill in the funeral home down the street.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, now.
It gets worse.
I know, but I was going to say, at this point, it is just, mock funerals.
Well, there was a kid that said
he ain't cutting into them or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But I know. I was going to say, but I'm pretty sure he's about to.
Yeah. So one of his neighbors said that, and I believe it was a relative even, said that they saw
unalive.
Yes, a cat, and then go and hold the mock funeral for it. But now that's just hearsay, because the majority of the time people would see him take roadkill. So his neighbor could have been lying or telling the truth. We don't know. But that was the only person that ever said that they saw him, unalive an animal and take it.
Yeah.
Because people literally saw him go and get the roadkill any other time. And this was all well and good. Yeah. The mock funerals was all well and good, even though the townspeople were like, what the actual fuck?
He was just a child.
But he was just a kid, and so they just let it go until. Sorry, it's not funny, but it's just so fucking out there that it's better to laugh than cry. he started involving the other children. He started inviting the children to these mock funerals to be the congregation.
He had a congregation.
Oh, no, they didn't go.
Oh.
Yeah, he tried. Oh, no, some would. But even if they didn't show up, he would still hold them himself and just preach to nobody. But the roadkill. Yeah.
We're awful people. We're awful people.
Okay, so once that started happening, they were already freaked out before, but now they're like, you're not involving our kids. Absolutely not. So that became one of those things where a lot of the women in town started not providing for him as much as they had previously.
Pulling back.
Yes, because they were terrified of him. The older Jim gets, his fascination with religion is going to start taking a turn. And it's going to go from being more like traditional, like Methodist and probably Baptist and that kind of thing, backwoods, but still not snake handling.
Mainstream.
Yeah. Jim would start to frequent more Pentecostal churches and stuff like that. And if you don't really know a lot about
Pentecost, like backwoods Pentecostal.
Yes.
Like the snake handling Pentecostal.
I don't know. It doesn't say anything about snake handling, but it does say like we're getting more into like where they believe in like prophecy, speaking in tongues, healing, having a healing. Some people are blessed with a healing touch, that kind of thing. Yeah. They're very theatrical. They're very theatrical. You know how they'll like hit you on the head and heal you, and they'll fall down. Which that's fine. I'm not talking shit. I'm just saying that's we've seen.
I used to go to a Pentecostal, a little Pentecostal church for their vacation Bible school. Mm-hmm. Actually, the pastor preached my daddy's funeral.
Really? So we ain't talking shit.
They were really good friends, but no, they didn't do the snake handling or anything, but they did do the speaking in the tongues.
Oh, yeah, I've never seen that in person.
Oh, it is something else. It is something to behold. But now, honey, he loved that anointing.
Oh, yeah,
I swear, and let me tell you, honey, even at the vacation Bible school, all us children would get anointed.
Yeah, which is totally fine, because I know some Baptist churches that are
he'd pour his hand full of that oil and just slap it right on your head.
No.
It'd be running down your face and in your eyes and everything, honey, everything. But, he was a good man.
Yeah.
He was a good man and a fine preacher. And he still is a fine preacher to this day. So the women were starting to pull back.
Yes. And where he starts going to more Pentecostal type churches and stuff like that, Jim starts to claim that he has supernatural abilities, claiming that he is guided by the angel of death and that he can fly. This leads Jim to gather a bunch of kids, telling them that he can fly, and he jumps off a roof, obviously doesn't fly, and breaks his arm. It's only funny because it's Jim Jones.
No.
Because if it was any other kid, I'd be like, that's awful.
Don't get me wrong, honey. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not trying to downgrade the gifts from God.
Right.
But flying has never been one of them.
No. But when he fell and broke his arm, he just said that he needed to get stronger and that it just wasn't working right now, that kind of thing.
They do.
Instead of, being like a normal kid, be like, ow, I broke my arm, I'm never going to do that again. He was like, oh no, I just need to get better in my powers.
He needs to be more devout.
Yeah. Okay, saying that he's got about the angel of death, he would start telling this to other kids, not just about the flying thing. He would start putting other children at risk, at like really risky situations and stuff like that were not safe, and telling them to like do certain things, like jump off something high up or other things like that, and that they're going to be just fine if they do it because he's guided by the angel of death, and he knows they're going to be fine.
So he's a sociopath,
literally. Okay. So once he starts putting other kids in danger, the townswomen like almost all of them are like we're done. So he went from having a little bit of women pull back and said from not taking care of him to literally the majority. Like there was like probably 2 women, one of them being Myrtle Kennedy.
He's become the weird kid.
Oh, 100%. They were terrified of him. So when that happens, Jim starts misbehaving in other ways. He frequently stole candy from a store in town. I'm guessing the same store, and that would cause his mother, Lynetta, that we know is a bitch, to have to go to the store and pay for it because he'd get caught.
Yeah.
So she'd have to go and pay for the items that he'd stole with money she didn't have, and this would cause him to get his ass whooped.
Yeah.
Like with the leather belt, like beat.
He got strapped.
Jim was, even though his mother was not motherly at all, Jim was a mama's boy. He strived to do everything to please his mother. All he wanted was, I guess, probably her love. Yes, that was exactly what I was going to say. He wanted her love and approval more than anything. And so he mimicked a lot of himself off of his mother, especially as he gets this age, and mimicking himself after his mom in so many ways as he got older. He would draw even more ire from the townspeople he would constantly greet them by saying, "Hello, you dirty bastard."
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Or this one, you're going to like this even better. "Good morning, you son of a bitch."
I swear, that's how I'm going to greet people at work. I swear from now, I'm just going to be like, "What's up, bastard?" I'm sorry, it's not funny.
It is.
Okay, all right.
So this is a trait he also picked up from his mother, who cursed frequently out in public and found it amusing to watch other people become uncomfortable with watching a woman of that time cuss like a sailor, So she thought it was hilarious. And so he mimicked that and loved seeing people get uncomfortable. And the cult cake that we're starting to brew.
The what?
Cult cake.
Cult cake. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I did not know what you said for a minute. I was like,
yeah. In the cult cake that we're about to whip up, you can see how we're getting pinches of.
Yeah. I was going to say, we're creaming the butter and sugar right now.
Literally. Honey, we're seasoning that shit up. It's starting to take form.
It's starting to take form.
So in his teenage years, Jim would become obsessed with the social doctrines of Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Karl Marx, and Mahatma Gandhi.
Oh.
So there's Gandhi,
Yeah, well, that's the only one.
I know. I was over here with Gandhi.
That's the only one admirable in the whole group. I
don't know who Karl Marx is.
He's a communist Well, he's a Marxist. A lot. of people.
Marx and Marx, whatever. Yeah.
He.
I'm gonna go look into him.
Pretty much the only one who's admirable in there is Gandhi.
So Jim spent hours and hours in his preteen years studying literally as a preteen, studying the social doctrines of all those dudes. Sorry, I literally repeated myself and I don't know why. But he became fascinated with the Nazi Party, as they do cult leaders. Tell me I'm wrong.
Oh no, you're not wrong.
Yeah, I mean literally as they do.
Not wrong at all.
Add that into the cult cake.
As we see every day. Yeah,
one neighbor recalled Jones giving it was one of his friends growing up. We'll just say one neighbor. One neighbor that was kind of friendly, I guess, with him recalled Jones giving the Nazi salute and yelling "Heil Hitler" as World War II German prisoners of war passed en route to a detention facility, somewhere outside of Lynn. So throw that in there, the cold cake as well. Jones would attempt to take on the role of a dictator with other kids in the neighborhood, ordering the other kids to goose step together and beating the children that would disobey. Okay, they weren't his age. They were younger children. So he was the stronger, the bigger one and everything like that. And so he was playing dictator. 100%, but he was pretending to be a dictator. So there's this guy named Tim Riderman, a journalist and biographer of Jones, that wrote that Jim's obsession with religion was influenced by Jones's desire for a family. And I get that, but at the same time, there are lots of people that grow up without a family and way worse off than this.
Yeah.
That don't turn out to be raging lunatics. Just saying.
But not Jim.
But not Jimmy. Mm-mm. As Jones gets older, he becomes more and more unhinged with his religious beliefs, causing the town people to reach out to Lynetta, his mom, and asking her to basically control her son. Because, I mean, he's starting to spread like ideas of socialism and communism and like the different doctrines of Hitler and Stalin and
Marxism.
Yeah.
I mean, Gandhi's doctrines, it's kind of okay. But,
right, honey, he didn't focus on Gandhi.
He didn't focus on Gandhi. No.
She refused to do anything about it.
She didn't have time. She had to work.
Yeah, she was like, This caused Jim to become a total outcast. Okay, he already was, but this is when it gets like, I mean, he is totally like basically excommunicated from the community, other than by Myrtle Kennedy and her family.
Little Myrtle.
And he was basically hated by the majority of the town and its locals. When he started, and that was by the time he started high school. In 1945, Jim's parents would get divorced, and Jim and his mother, Lynetta, would move to Richmond, Indiana. Jim, of course, stood out from the other kids.
No.
Not at all. And it wasn't just because of his super fucking weird behavior. It was because he was really smart. Like, he was great in school. And his favorite like pastime was getting in debates with the teachers. Like, good debate. He was a teacher's pet. Like, not angry debates. Like, where he just enjoyed debating back and forth. And that his teachers would consider him a really good student, but he didn't have any friends in high school because he was known as the kid as always, like, he was dressed like in church, like in what you would wear to church. And so, like, we're talking like slacks and, the white shirt type of thing. And, it literally looked like you just come to church. What your grandfather would wear to church. Always carried a Bible with him. Instead of going out dancing, drinking, or smoking with the other kids, which he would constantly go and try to convince other kids to not go do those things, which would not be bad. That's not a bad thing. That's like a good thing. But also, it's like a rite of passage. Everybody does it. Like, we all go through some type of
Honey, you can't be old and wise without being young and stupid.
Amen. So, he would try to convince the other kids to not go out and do those things like that. Even going so far as to going to like parties, as like the other kids were having. I'll say teenagers because kids just makes me think of like 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
Other teens were having like the parties and stuff like that, or like going out to like, I guess probably like a diner or the bowling alley, where they would all cruise around. Lover's Lane.
Honey, I'm just late. Like, I'm like totally just laid up here right now.
That's okay. On our last video, when you're telling the story about Heaven's Gate, all of my entire body has turned towards you. It's up in the seat, and I've got my cover up to here, and I'm going like this, listening to you. And I look so fat.
Like, I just realized, I was like, hey, I look like I'm just laid up on her right now. But I mean, I kind of am, because I mean, I have one dog here, another dog here. We're just a big happy family right now.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Like I said, he would go so far as to go into where everybody was, chilling and hanging out, where the party was. And go up in there and start Bible thumping, which, as you know, that's the best way to get to a teen's heart.
I kind of feel like almost every high school had a Jim Jones now. Because there was always that one kid who...
Yeah, you've got a point.
Yeah, like I feel, now that I think about it, I'm like, well, there was that one little boy at our school who always,
ours was a girl.
Carried that Bible around, and he'd always thump on us. And
oh yeah.
Yeah.
In 1946, Jim would begin working as an orderly at Richmond's Reed Hospital, and although he was like super well regarded by the senior staff, that was just Toby jumping down. Nobody freak out. But by his co-workers and patients that were like, same as him, or like just regular nurses and stuff like that, thought he was super fucking weird, and constantly, like, even the patients would be like, something ain't right with him.
There's something wrong with that boy.
Yeah.
He ain't right.
But while he's working there, Jones would meet his very unfortunate future wife, Marceline May Baldwin.
That's a name. Marceline May.
Yep. And they would begin dating soon after they meet. Jim and Marceline would date all through Jim's college years, while he attended Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana. While in college, Jim started to speak out more on his communist views and other radical political beliefs that he would have, even telling Marceline that Mao Zedong was his hero. And I don't know if I'm saying his name right. I'm real sorry. Country is a cornbread over here. But for those of you who don't know, because I did not know, Mao Zedong was chairman of the Chinese Communist Party from 1943 until his death. So his hero was this guy, and apparently I'm guessing that this guy was probably not the best dude. I mean, he's a communist.
Probably not.
Jim and Marceline would get married in June 1949.
Oh.
Oh no. Surprise, surprise, bitches.
Surprise, surprise.
Oh, hell. So, they get married, and no surprise, y'all. Jim was a fucking horrible husband.
You don't say.
No, never. Jim was reportedly emotionally and psychologically abusive, and he had a huge issue with Marceline's own religion. And I'm like, you're just bringing this up after you get married? Okay.
Too little, too late.
Classic narcissist, honey.
Gaslighting.
Yes. So Marceline had been raised Methodist, and Jim only had one issue with the Methodist Church, and it's actually a really valid issue. We're about to get to the only redeeming quality about Jim fucking Jones. And that is, the Methodist Church believed in racial segregation. And Jim's literally only good quality was that he was an avid anti-racist.
But every church in the 40s believed in racial segregation, pretty much.
Well, I don't know. This is just that's.
Well, no, that was in Indiana too.
Yeah,
it? So that was I guess I could see that then.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
But guys, even though this sounds like this was his one good quality, it's very contradictory. Because y'all remember earlier when I told you that the man had a fascination with Adolf Hitler?
Yeah.
But you're not a racist. I mean, I know that we're talking about religion and not skin color when it comes to Adolf Hitler. But I'm just like, how can you be one without the other?
Well, Adolf Hitler technically wasn't racist; he was xenophobic.
Well, that's true. That's true. But I just feel like, how do they not go hand in hand? But remember, his perfect vision for a people was blonde hair and blue eyes.
I feel like they do go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess I can. Well, I don't want to say that I sympathize with Jim Jones, but I can see where he's making the differentiation.
I totally understand what you mean. Yeah, I get what you mean completely. But I think this is just my opinion, y'all. I don't think that I do believe that he wasn't a racist, but I don't think that I think that he was using the African American plot at that time as a weapon.
Oh yeah,
as to bring people over to his side.
Yeah. Because, I mean, he was, portraying himself as a sympathetic white man.
Exactly. So, like I said earlier, I know that, all for a second, you're probably like, because when I first was reading this, I was like, oh, well, at least he's not racist. But, honey, I believe this was absolutely a fake, empathetic goodness to control people. And it didn't matter what skin color they were. He just wanted to control.
That's the dictator in it.
Yeah. In 1952, Jim would join. Oh, sorry, I got a little ahead of myself. But in 1952, Jim must have decided that it wasn't that bad. Just kidding. He would join the Methodist Church, honey.
Might as well.
Oh no, this was not because he changed his mind, y'all. It was to in his mind infiltrate the church from the inside, honey, and spread socialist views. Toby, I'm gonna need you to lay down. Them little clickety-clackies on this wood floor, honey. Yeah, you stay there, honey, on your little bed.
I'm just like piled up in your lap right now.
I'm so comfy.
I am too. I was like,
I don't even feel like you're that fucking close.
I'm just all like, tell me about Jim Jones.
Like I said, he's trying to infiltrate the church from the inside, honey, to spread socialism.
Honey, a mole. He's a mole.
Yeah, he thinks he is. This does not last long, y'all. Because Jim would steal from the church's funds and get fired.
Well.
But he would claim, of course, classic classic deflection move, that the reason he was fired from the church was because he brought an integrated African American population into the congregation. That's what he would claim.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. The following year, Jim would visit the Latter Rain Church, and a woman there, supposedly, would tell him that he was a great prophet, and that this sent him on a mission, honey. But that is literally what he said. It probably never happened. No woman probably ever told him that bullshit.
So the woman then called him a prophet.
Yes.
She lied.
Yeah. If it even really happened, like I said. So the Latter Rain movement is a belief in prophecy, healing, and other spiritual gifts. Jim would, once he, started hanging out with the Latter Rain Church, he would become ordained by Joseph Matheson Boys, a leader in the IAOG.
National Assembly of God.
So, you heard the man.
International Assembly of God.
Yeah. From now on, we're just going to call it the IAOG, honey. That's what I wrote down.
We're going to call it IDGE.
IDGE. So, William Branham is a big deal in the IAOG. He is a preacher, and he would amass huge crowds to come and hear his preachings. And he was good, honey. He was good at what he did. He knew his congregation, the individuals in the congregation. They would come up and he knew them. He would talk to them like they were friends. He knew what struggles they were having at home. He knew what they were coming to, like what they needed prayer for. Because they would talk throughout the week and stuff like that. He was very interactive with his congregation, and that's what people loved about him so much. But when he was also big into this is where it started. This started for Jim because he saw William Branham do this, where he would bring in his congregation, preach, and then he would heal people in front of the congregation. Of course, they would lose their minds over it.
Mm-hmm.
And when Jim saw this and saw how much people just ate this shit up, basically, he knew that this was a gold mine.
Oh, yeah, honey. Slap a price on that miracle.
Yeah. So Jim starts doing the same thing that Branham does, but he would make it even more outlandish, as they do, as cult leaders do, honey.
Mm-hmm. You got to be flashy to be a cult leader.
Exactly. With his more outlandish types, put-ons of healings, which were completely faked, obviously. People came out later and said they're faked. Yeah, totally staged. This would bring about Jones's church getting massive amounts of popularity fast. And people would honestly think that he had a legit gift from God, because these people were he had it set up, y'all, where materials would fall off people and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That's the cancer falling off of them and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Did you like my?
Yeah.
The cancer
is very, very prolific.
I tried.
Very prolific.
Honey, I could stand up right now and do a flawless interpretation of a Southern preacher.
Oh, honey, so good.
We'll do it later. We won't do it on camera.
And I say unto you.
And if they talk so fast, and they're like, and they breathe super deep because they've lost their breath.
Right.
Okay, sorry.
All right, sorry. Moving on. So
it gets super popular, super quick, and they would go on to name the church what it is known as still today, the People's Temple.
The People's Temple.
Yes.
Sounds like a show from Nickelodeon from our childhood.
It literally
does.
The
People's Temple.
After the People's Temple, popularity goes through the roof, and more people start joining the church at every service. Every single service, somebody was joining the church. Honey, he was putting on a show.
Oh, yeah. Theatrics.
Jones, very much so. Jones would start pushing for racial equality, which is great when you say it like that.
Yeah.
But he did that because he knew that's what most people were longing for, no matter what color they were.
Everybody wants to be accepted.
Much so, and he knew that's what most people wanted, and so he played on that. And he was pushing equality for everyone, every sermon. He would start going to restaurants that didn't serve African Americans, I can't think of anywhere other than a restaurant that my mind just went blank. But think anywhere that like
any place that was segregated, which in that point in time was every place.
Honey, it gets me heated.
I know.
We won't go there. I could go on a whole rant.
We won't go into that because that's honey,
it'll get us heated.
It will, because honey, we don't believe in that nonsense.
Hell no.
Honey,
it gets me heated.
We have enough left for everybody, honey. We see people, we don't see the color.
That's right. At the guild. Honey, at the guild.
Honey, here at the guild.
In the guild, we all fam.
Yeah, in the guild. I like it. In the guild, we all fam, honey. Yeah.
So Jones starts pushing for racial equality, which we would love, and people are all about it because that's what they're hungering for in this time. But like I said, he starts using it as a weapon to draw in more people because all he wants is control of more people. The more, the merrier. So Jones starts attacking the white supremacists from all over in his sermons and stuff like that. And he goes like he's like, honey, we're going to talk about this every single damn sermon. This catches wind, the white supremacists, like, the Ku Klux Klan and all those hoes. I don't know who the fuck they are. Literally, that's the only one I know. I guess neo-Nazi groups, but like, I don't know what you call them. Whatever. All them hoes. Jesus, I'm trying to be serious, and here I'm like, all them motherfuckers.
All these hoes here, honey.
Yeah. All these idiots. Jones would talk about them constantly, and they catch wind of it. And so this is when the white supremacists start going back at him. And honey, they tried everything, apparently. I couldn't really figure out what all they had tried, but I mean, honey, they tried to take his ass down. But this brought even more attention to Jones and made even more people flock to him because they were seeing that no matter what they did, nothing stopped him. Like, and that they see it as like a sign from God.
That he is true to his word.
Yeah, he's triumphant over the villains, the demons that are white supremacists. So they see this as like a sign from God because Jones, they didn't take him down, which was rare back then. Like if you got the eye of like somebody like the Ku Klux Klan or something like that, it's nothing like it is now where we outrule them. It was in little communities like this, they could take you down. Oh yeah, definitely. But Jones emerged victorious. We'll say that. Is that pretty good? Yeah. Okay. Because all these people see him up there talking about good and equality, and this made people fall for Jones's teachings. Persevered. Yeah, I like it. This made people fall for Jones's preachings, teachings, whatever. Hook, line, and sinker, honey. Like he had them. Oh yeah. But not long after this, Jim would start to lose it a little bit. His mind is what I'm talking about. More than he already has. Jim starts becoming obsessed with preaching about having visions of a nuclear apocalypse that was going to wipe out the planet. Classic cult shit. Doomsdayer. Yeah, honey. It always goes to something. Something's going to happen. Well, yeah, because it always goes to then you get that aspect of fear, and you get to rule. Exactly. You get to rule by fear. Exactly. That's classic cult shit, honey. That's what they all do it. So Jim goes on to convince his followers that South America is where they need to move in order to avoid the nuclear threat. And he would even go so far as to go visit South America and like find an area to move the People's Temple. But Jim would keep coming across financial issues and about moving the whole congregation to South America. But that's not what only caused a huge divide in the church. People were like, some people weren't complete idiots. Yeah. They were like, something ain't right about this. And then the church literally became divided into basically those who were like, this man's fucking crazy and it's taking a weird turn. And then the other people that are like, oh no, he is a prophet and he's trying to save us type of thing. But where it caused such an uproar and he was going to lose such a massive amount of his followers, Jim decides to dial it back and focus more on keeping the church together. But at this time, a bunch of people had already left, so he's got a much smaller congregation, but he decides that moving to California will be good enough. Okay. So they like the California for some reason. They really do. They really do. So they moved to California, Jim and his smaller congregation, and Jim would continue to implement his own worldviews into his teachings. Like, he would like be throwing in like massive not massive, let's not say massive. He would be throwing in his socialist views, is all I can know what to say, socialist and communist views, into his teachings. But at this time, when he gets to California, he becomes a drug addict. And
as they do,
he goes batshit bananas even more and starts to completely disregard the Bible in his teachings. And he would go so far as to call it racist and a tool of oppression against women. So now he's bringing us women into it, honey, because, he's trying to pull even more in. And this is California. And that would have been really big back then, I feel like, in California, more than it would in the South. So Jim would go as far as to mock God, calling him Sky God. And then he would start, not long after that, referring to himself as God, and that there was no other God but Jim. As they do.
Sounds about right.
As they do.
So far, we're on point, honey. We're on point.
Oh, yeah. I forgot. We're still mixing that cult cake.
Yeah.
Honey, it's we've got it whipped up to put in a pan to bake.
Yeah. It's about to go in the oven.
Yeah. So, Jim was quoted as saying this. What you need to believe in is what you can see. If you see me as your friend, I'll be your friend. As you see me as your father, I'll be your father. And for those of you that don't have a father, if you see me as your savior, I'll be your savior. If you see me as your God, I'll be your God. Damn. So now we're going to pour it into the pan.
Yeah.
Pop it in the oven.
It's time to bake her.
So, like I said earlier, when they moved to California, soon after that, Jim becomes a full-blown drug addict. And this only made his paranoia and his God complex worse. He really started ruling over the congregation with an iron fist. It's about to start colting hard, okay? The first big change that you would see in the church the first big change would be that once you join the church, you would have to give over all your assets. Very communist.
Mm-hmm.
But this is also typical in a cult-like setting. We saw it in our last cult video when Josh told us the story about Heaven's Gate. You basically gave your
worldly possessions over.
Yeah, like it was shared
for the good of the group.
Exactly. But it's also like it's a classic isolation technique that if you don't have anything, all you're left with is the cult and the people in the cult. It completely isolates you from being able to leave because you can't afford to leave. Like, where are you going to go without any money? Jim would go on to create his own unique way of baptizing his followers. He would baptize his converts in the holy name of socialism. So, yeah. Jim would go on to say that if you're born in capitalist America, racist America, fascist America, then you are born in sin. But if you are born in socialism, you are not born in sin. What? Yeah. Yeah. Low-key, I know this was a totally different time. There wasn't social media and all this other stuff. But sometimes it just absolutely blows my mind how people can... I don't want to be insensitive, but like it just blows my mind how people followed this man.
Oh, I mean...
But because I about said something else, but it would have been really mean. But like, I don't want to be insensitive.
No, but I mean, people do. People still are.
I know.
I mean, people seem to get sucked in cults every day.
That's true.
And follow their cult leaders religiously.
Yep. Jim would draw his teachings about prophecy from the Book of Revelation, teaching that American capitalist culture was basically the irredeemable Babylon, like the new Babylon. Jones would frequently warn his congregation of an upcoming apocalyptic race war. He told his followers that the Nazis and white supremacists would put people of color in concentration camps, and that he was the Messiah, and he had been sent to save people, and that the only way to survive this nuclear race war was to accept Jim's teachings, and after the apocalypse was over, Jim and his followers would come forward and establish this new perfect communist society. Once again, classic cult.
Mm-hmm. Definitely all or nothing.
Very much so. Okay, honey, we're going to start whipping up the frosting for our cake cult. Our cult cake.
Our cult cake.
Abuse within the cult started being reported not long after the cults moved to California. As I mentioned earlier, Jim was heavy on the drugs once
He's
he got
on
to
that
California.
stuff, honey. Yeah.
Drugs and alcohol. He was
double fisting.
Dear God. Jones started by controlling who members in the cult can marry. Yes, they do.
Always.
I know I keep saying that, but I'm like, bitch, this is so classic cult. Every cult does this. He started controlling who members of the cult could marry, and also some members were coerced into having abortions. And Jones would also begin to require sexual favors from the women of the church, but he also reportedly several male members of the congregation as well.
He was an equal opportunist.
Apparently. So it didn't matter who you were. You'll see that a lot as we go on. Jim will constantly say that he is heterosexual.
Yeah.
But he is not, honey. At the very least, he's bisexual. In 1971, Jones would start to see negative press making headlines about his divine healings. Reports about these healings started making the news, especially in Indiana. He still had a church in Indiana. I forgot to mention that, and he would travel back and forth.
Yeah.
But he spent the majority of his time in San Francisco, in California. All these reports brought the attention of the Indiana State Psychology Board, and they looked into Jim's so-called healing practices. A doctor. This is not funny at all. It's just the word that this doctor uses. I'm like, you can definitely tell this was back in the day. A doctor involved in the investigation accused Jim of quackery.
He's a quack.
Yeah. And insisted that Jim give tissue samples of the so-called material that Jim would claim fell off people when they were healed from their cancer. So apparently skin was falling off, dead skin and stuff. This investigation caused quite a stir from inside the church for obvious reasons. And Jim's paranoia went through the roof, honey. Oh my God, Jinx. As they're looking into his healings in Indiana, in his mind, he needed to get out of there. So Jim would announce his resignation from the Church of Indiana, saying that it was too far from California and that's where he needed to focus his teachings. Of course.
Mm-hmm.
This move would only make things worse for Jim, though. 8 members from the People's Temple would make accusations of abuse against the planning commission of the People's Temple and also the People's Temple staff members. At the end of 1973, Jones would be arrested for lewd behavior because he was self-pleasuring in a movie theater in front of an undercover cop.
Wow.
But literally, this case would be dismissed, although the reasons are unknown. The judge ordered that the case records be sealed and destroyed.
Huh.
So I'm guessing little Jimmy had something on the judge, honey.
Yeah, that or he had a little bit of money, had a little change in his pocket to spare.
Right, literally. So after all this, guys, Jim's paranoia keeps going up, honey. Mix it into the frosting, mix it into the frosting.
Honey.
And the growing interest of the press does not die down. The press starts becoming obsessed with reporting on the People's Temple and Jones teaching, his divine healings and stuff like that. That moves over into California as well. People start picking shit up and start reporting on it. So Jones starts planning to move the church out of the United States in the fall of 1973. And by the winter of 1974, the first group of Jones's congregation arrives in Guyana to start setting up the commune that would later be known as what we know it today, Jonestown. Jones convinced his followers that the move to South America was the only way to create the perfect social paradise and a sanctuary from the press in the United States that was, trying to bring him down.
So he running
because he's the Messiah. Well, honey,
he running scared,
honey. Yeah, because in reality, it was absolutely just a plan to escape the reports of physical, emotional, and sexual, because we have to be careful what we say, sexual abuse from former members in the congregation back in the U.S. So Jim absolutely knew that the U.S. was about to start figuring his shit out. And he jumped ship, as you could say, basically, into Guyana.
Yeah.
Guyana. I keep wanting to say Guyana. I do not know why. Guyana. This country was picked because it recently went through a revolution and they had a socialist government. In May 1977, Jones and around 600 of his followers moved to Guyana, with 400 more followers arriving over the next few months. My nose is itching, honey. Okay, guys. So this is what we believe like the daily schedule of Jonestown looked like for members. Okay. From in the beginning, this is how it started. 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Members would work 6 days a week. This would include an hour lunch break. Oh, so generous.
Mm-hmm.
But this would later be shortened to an 8-hour schedule and a 5-day work week. After work, members would be expected to attend several hours of classes and activities, including classes on socialism. Jim would compare the schedule of Jonestown to that of the North Korean system of the 8 hours work, 8 hours of study, and this would later be combined with gradually with Jones subjecting his followers to mind control and behavior modification techniques, the same ones that were used by Kim Il Sung's Korea, North Korea, and Mao Zedong's China. Jim would constantly read news over a loudspeaker that could be heard all throughout the commune. He would only tell news that could be heard coming from communist countries. So he was always portraying the U.S. as the capitalist, imperialist villains, while casting socialist leaders like Kim Il Sung and Joseph Stalin in a positive light.
As they do.
Yes, as they do. Okay, ding, ding, ding. Let's pull the cake out of the oven and let it cool, honey, because
here it comes.
Shit is about to pop off, okay? Once I get to Guyana, Jim gets... he's already crazy. He's already batshit crazy. But, I mean, it goes... I know you didn't think it could go any further, but damn, honey, it goes so much further. He expects nothing less than complete loyalty from his followers, taking it as far as hosting mock suicide. That's what KallMeKris said, and she didn't get her video taken down, and she's famous now.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, mock suicide drills. These drills would be called white nights. I love how I keep doing this, but that's what... But I mean,
she really does.
Yeah.
She's talking with quotations.
Yeah, honey. Oh, yeah. If you're just listening instead of watching, honey, I'd be putting so many quotations up with my fingers. So these drills were called white nights, where a tub of a drinkable mixture was sat out before the followers of the cult, and they would be brought up one by one, and they would be told to drink the mixture. And they didn't know whether or not this was a mock. They didn't know that these were mock.
Yeah.
Mock suicide drills. They could have been real. He set it up like it was real every time that they had one. So he never said, "Okay, guys, this is what we're going to do. This is just pretend." They literally thought they could be possibly drinking poison.
That was a test of loyalty.
Absolutely. He did this, like you said, to see who was loyal. And for example, if a follower came up there, they said, "Drink this," and they did it without hesitation, Jones was like, "You're loyal. You're all good. Go out and, basically enjoy your day." That kind of thing. After you've literally just in your mindset, not knowing you're about to fucking drop dead.
Have a nice day now.
Like, it's a PTSD. But now, if a follower would come up and has either just hesitated even for a second, or just flat out refused, they would be punished harshly, most likely with hardcore beatings and torture, that kind of thing. So the cult followers are all of them, no matter who you were constantly walking on eggshells.
Oh yeah,
in
definitely.
Jonestown. Never knowing when they might drink a drink that could very well be poisoned. There was literally, but literally there was no other choice. Like they would either drink it. Okay, say they don't drink it, they're going to get their asses whooped. But if, say, for instance, if they don't drink it and they try to escape afterwards, Jonestown is extremely well guarded.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. He's got like hardcore security all throughout Jonestown. And if you tried to escape and you got caught, honey, you wish you were dead. Like, that's how strongly you would be punished. Like, you would rather be dead than be punished like that. These guards were, they were used to keep people out for sure, but they were mostly there to keep people in.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. So back in the U.S., family members of some of the followers in Jonestown were obviously extremely freaking concerned about their relatives, and they started forming groups about, like, for support and that kind of thing, trying to get word out to the American government, the leaders, their governors, whoever they could get the attention of to get some help. And one of the groups that would become the most famous group there was trying to with the relatives was the horrible name, but bless their hearts, the Concerned Relatives Group. Okay.
The CRG.
Yes. This group would cause Jim to go on night-long rants over the loudspeaker through Jonestown. So you've worked an 8-hour day, and then after that 8-hour day, you have to go to classes or activities about socialism and other things like that. And then you go, and then you are exhausted from your complete, horribly long day of grueling work, then studying, and then you can't go to sleep. This is also a isolation and like drive you crazy, like mind control type thing. That's also a technique that's used around the world to bend people to your will. Sleep deprivation. People are less likely to fight you or debate with you about things, and you can hallucinate, and you're more bendable to that person's will.
Oh yeah.
And our bodies and our minds need sleep in order to function properly, and Jim knew this, and so he's using this as another way to get more and more control over these people. The Concerned Relatives Group would not stop pushing their case on the American government until the U.S. finally was like, okay, let's look into some stuff. The investigation in Jonestown was aided greatly by 2 defectors from Jonestown. Deborah Layton, a former financial secretary of Jim Jones, and Tim Stowen. Remember that name, Tim Stowen. Deborah left the cult and issued a statement warning of a possible future mass suicide in Jonestown. And Tim Stowen was a lawyer who had been a huge part of picking Guyana as the place to make Jonestown. And he also was extremely close with Jim Jones. Like his right-hand man, I guess you could say. Stowen would later go on to assist one of the mothers in the Concerned Relatives Group to petition for her son's release from Jonestown. After Jim left Jonestown, this is what a lot, I won't say most, but a lot of people that have really like, not biologists, Lord have mercy, researchers and stuff like that, that, spend their life like, who wrote biographies about Jim Jones and stuff like that. This is where a lot of them say that Jim, he was already about shit, but this is one of the many things that sent Jim over the fucking edge.
This was the tipping point.
Because this was, to him, the ultimate act of betrayal.
So now it's time to frost that cake.
Right, honey. Start frosting it. Tim had been such a trusted friend of Jones, and like I said, he saw this as he was absolutely crucial in picking Guyana for Jonestown, and he was, like I said, ultimate act of betrayal. Congressman, like the U.S. government was kind of paying attention, but they weren't getting on it fast enough.
Right.
But this is all until California's Congressman Leo Ryan would press the U.S. government to finally get involved into taking a closer look into Jonestown, as the congressman would have a personal connection to Jonestown himself. Bob Sammy Houston Jr. was really good friends with the congressman, and his son, Bob's son, Bobby Houston Jr., had been a member of the People's Temple while they were in San Francisco, and he was actually, his mutilated, dead body was found alongside the train tracks in San Francisco. And this was why he was in. While he was in the cult, And I'm guessing his father believed the cult had something to do with it. Congressman Ryan would travel to Guyana with the intention of speaking with Jones and hopefully coming to some sort of agreement with the cult leadership, with Jones, to release any people from within Jonestown that wished to leave. Ryan would be accompanied by the congressional delegation, as well as Richard Dryard, who worked in the U.S. Embassy in Guyana, and as well as many reporters from different stations, and Tim Stowen.
Oh.
Okay, so you're taking everybody that Jim hates, and then the biggest, like the person that he believes, that Jim in his mind that believes that Tim has betrayed him above all other betrayals, honey. And you're taking them directly to him. And it's not like Jonestown isn't fucking armed to the teeth.
Right.
So here they go. All of them go down to Jonestown, and they arrive on the ground in Guyana, November 15th, 1978. The Congressman Ryan and all the people from the delegation, Tim Stowen, all of them, honey, go to Jim Jones's front door. Not really his front door, but the gate. And only the congressman and maybe Tim, I can't remember, somebody. But anyway, that's not important. Only 2 people's allowed in, but one of them is the congressman. And he goes in there, he's allowed to hang out, talk to everybody, talk to a few people, I should say. And of course, they're all singing rave reviews.
Yeah.
This is where they want to be. It's the best. This is the best place they've ever been. Best thing that's ever happened to them. Of course they did, because they were coerced and they were freaking scared to death for their lives. But later that night, the family members are allowed to attend and see their family members and blah, 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 blah. And they hold festivities with the families and everything inside the pavilion inside Jonestown. And of course, everybody's just happy-go-lucky. But somebody would actually pass a note telling what's really happening to the congressman. And a little kid, honey, saw that this person had passed a note and went and tattled. I was making sure we could get them. Goes and tells, honey. Okay. But bless his little heart, it's not his fault. He was a child.
Yeah.
So nothing would happen right away. Actually, Congressman Ryan would get up and say a speech, and you can actually go watch it, where he's like, out of all the people I've talked to here, this seems like it's the best thing that's ever happened to them. And people go fucking crazy. The crowd goes wild. Well, because they know if they're saying not getting hyped, they know they're going to get their ass whooped once the rest of the congressman leaves. And no, but there are some people that want to leave that blah, blah, blah. And Jim makes it seem like, absolutely, no problem, you can take them. So the next day, they're all going to leave, and there's a plane waiting. And so the people that want to leave are made to believe they can leave. And Deborah Layton's brother, Deborah Layton, the one that defected, his name's Larry Layton, would insist that he has to leave. Some people were kind of like, something don't feel right, but they eventually conceded and was like, okay, come on. Horrible mistake.
Yeah.
The families and the press and everything would leave Jonestown along with the congressman, and they would go to board the plane. Well, they realized that there's actually too many defectors, so they have to call in another plane so that they can all leave. So while waiting to, I guess, board everybody up into the second plane, if I understand that correctly, Larry Layton would whip out a gun, and it would misfire, but he would wound 2 people. And so, but he was taken down. But then, out of the woodwork, here comes members from Jonestown, and they start unloading on the Americans. And numerous people would die. The congressman was one of them. It was a bad time, honey. I know that sounds like I'm being insensitive, but like I almost just don't know how to process it, because in my mind, like when you envision it happening, you're like, I just felt like this could have been prevented.
Yeah.
So while all this is happening, back in Jonestown, Jim's like, all right, guys, it's time. Go ahead and mix us up. The Kool-Aid, as it wasn't actual Kool-Aid, but it was Kool-Aid because that's what it is, but it wasn't the brand Kool-Aid. I forget what it was. But it's not important. But anyway, it's basically Kool-Aid, bitch. And he would call from over the loudspeaker for everybody to come in to the church, and because they needed to have, a meeting. Mm-hmm. So everybody was required to attend. Jim would then proceed to go on, and you can listen to it. It's recorded. I've only listened to some snippets of it, especially the end. I don't think I could get through the entire thing. Basically, for 45 minutes, he's just ranting about and trying to convince his followers to basically commit mass suicide with him. Towards the end of it, Jim said a couple things that I was just like, he sounds like a Southern preacher. Because the end part that I heard, he was like, we tried, tell him we tried, we got tired. And I mean, he literally sounds like he's from Georgia. I was like, you're from Indiana, bro. Why are you talking like that? But whatever, that's besides the point. But he was just like, tell him we got tired, we laid it down, that kind of thing. And like, you hear people in the background, not a lot, but like being like, yes, and like you would in any other church. Like, yes, amen, we tried, that kind of thing. And he was like, he acted like he was to the very end, honey. He's fake prophesizing. He's like,
to the very end.
He's like, I know that the plane isn't going to make it. I know that somebody on that plane has a gun, and they're going to shoot the pilot, and it's going to go down in the jungle. He was like, I didn't plan it, but I know that'll happen. So I'm guessing that the original plan was for that plane to be up in the air, and then for Larry Layton to take out the pilot and let it crash. But I think that he probably, his plan got kind of thrown off because of the second plane that was coming. And he was trying to take out all of them, I'm guessing. So at the end of that, he basically is saying, Jones is saying, I think I didn't plan this, but I know it will happen. And the Americans are going to, basically, they're going to parachute down in here on us. And basically he's going to say that they're all going to kill him or take him or something. And that he believes they should just be kind to the elderly and be kind to our children and not let them go through that. And so that it's time to, leave. And everybody, like, you hear a couple people agree in the background, and then it just goes eerily silent. All you hear is like this, like what sounds like funeral home music, and like little bits of like noise, like probably people just moving around. And one by one, the Kool-Aid's handed out with cyanide in it to, I think it was over 200 children. Over 900 people would die in the mass suicide. Like I said, by cyanide poisoning, which is not a pretty death. It's, you foam at the mouth, you seize. It's, there was one other thing that's like, do you remember? Look, it's not quick. That's what I was going to add. It is not a quick death, and it is extremely painful. But, of course, Jones, being the fucking piece of shit he is, does not drink the cyanide poisoning. He kills himself via gunshot wound. Now, there were some people that tried to not drink it. They tried to escape into the jungle, forest, whatever. We'll say jungle, because, I mean, that's where they're at.
Yeah.
They tried to escape into the jungle, and they were gunned down. So, horrible, horrible. Oh, it's so eerie. I love her. It's hard to. We both are just silent, but it's like a lot to take in.
It is. It very much is.
Because it's like a huge majority of the people that died, like not the majority, but a huge amount of the people that died were children.
And I mean, if you think about it was not that long ago.
Not at all. Not at all. This happened in 1978.
Yeah. So this was not a horrible long ago.
No, definitely not.
Most of it,
it's shocking.
Our parents were,
Yeah, our
yeah.
Oh my God, our parents were adults.
Yeah.
When this happened.
It's crazy.
Literally, my mother had just graduated high school. She graduated in 1977.
I was going to say, Mom would have probably been pregnant with my brother James. So, our parents were, young adults when this took place.
It's so sad.
It is. It's very sad.
There's still family members today that are living that had somebody, one of their loved ones die in Jonestown, It's just really sad. And you're right, it's not that long ago, and it's weird to think about it being not that long ago.
Oh, I know. Oh, sorry, I'm rearranging.
It's crazy to me how different things are today.
Are they now?
I'm talking about there's technology.
Well, there is technology, which honestly, I still think that cults are very much prevalent today, and I think that technology helps them more.
Well, the people, another people's symbol. Heaven's Gate still has a website. Honey, one of our followers on TikTok was in our comments like, honey, that's the website's still up. I was like, what?
Yeah, it's definitely, it's crazy to think, but people, sad but true. That was a good little story time, though.
I was gonna say something else straight up, and it was good too, honey, but I didn't write it down. And now watch it be something important. I'll have to put a little note at the bottom.
It's fine.
But either way, I'm sure I think there is something I missed, and I have forgotten what it is. But any way you spin it, I'm not trying to make light of the situation at all. If I did forget something important, it's mind-boggling. I'm not saying I'm so interested in cults.
No, I understand.
Not in a good way.
Same. I don't want to be in a cult, but no. At the same time, I guess the thought process itself,
it's very intriguing as to how one person can amass such a following, like Jim Jones, like Adolf Hitler. How they weaponize your own mind against you.
Yeah,
with nothing but manipulation.
And it's still happening to this day.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
There are Jim Joneses of the world. There are Adolfs of the world out there still. Now their groups may be small. They may not, be as big as Jonestown, but they're definitely still there.
Yeah. We love you guys so much.
We do. Thank y'all so much for tuning in.
Honey, I know this was heavy.
Hey, it was heavy, honey.
But I think that our comedic relief really helped get us through.
Yeah.
That's one thing you'll always find here at the Midnight Guilds. It's comedic relief.
Comedic relief, honey, because we just can't help it.
Yeah, there's been a few videos that we have been so serious, but it called for, not that this didn't call for super serious, now I'm going to put my foot in my mouth, but the little John Bonet case. Yeah. We were so serious throughout the entire thing, but it's just so heart heavy.
Yeah. There's some things, we can't make light of, but there's some situations where...
Yeah, and this, we're not making light of this at all, but it's just... We basically made fun of Jim. We're not making fun of what happened to the people, but the audacity of this man.
Oh, gosh. Thank you all for tuning in. All of our new followers, thank you all so much for, coming along.
Yes, honey.
Coming along for the journey.
Hashtag the Guilders.
Hashtag the Guilders, honey. If you do like us, follow, subscribe. We're pretty much everywhere nowadays. We even got the Facebook now.
The only thing we don't have is an Instagram.
We don't have the Instagram.
They hate us. They will not let me in. I'm going to write them a damn letter or something. Email. I don't know why I said letter.
To whom it may concern. Oh, gosh.
So, literally, find us anywhere. If you are on YouTube, hit that subscribe button.
Hit it.
And next to that subscribe button is going to be a little bell.
Ring-a-ding.
You're going to click it.
Click.
And then you're going to select all.
Select it all.
And, honey, you won't miss it.
Won't miss a thing, baby.
Not a thing, honey.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.